But overall, 7 aesthetic professionals like a dentist, a surgeon, a doctor, an esthetician, and others concluded that, you know, I need Botox, I need dermal filler injections, maybe even a silicone implant along the cheek line, a blepharoplasty to fix the eyes, some sort of a rhinoplasty to adjust the nose. So I'm Yo, fellas, what's up? If you're weird like me, then you may have at some point wondered what aesthetic professionals might say about your appearance as far as what you can improve on and how you could just be a better looking guy. So today we're actually diving into a full comprehensive report from Qoves that does exactly that. It's basically a report from I think 6 or 7 different professionals that talk about what you can improve as far as your appearance and active steps that you could take to go ahead and improve upon those things. Now, word of caution. So Qoves is basically a YouTube channel and company that is all about beauty and the science and psychology behind it. So what they do is they look at different types of studies that talk about things like specific angles that make an attractive face and the impact of those in society. And so it is not for the faint of heart. So I would say if you are a little self-conscious about things, or you get self-conscious relatively easy, then I would maybe stay away from that until like you're confident about things, because it's really easy to hear something is off of what's considered attractive with your face, with your appearance, and just get really into your head and upset about it. Like if you heard that your eyes weren't at the proper angle, you might start always seeing that when you're looking in the mirror and just, oh my God, like what can I do about this? And that wasn't the case before you knew about it. So that is just like my word of caution, but it is a really awesome channel. I love the content that they put out. So I went ahead and did their comprehensive report, and we're gonna walk through that today. For those of you who don't know, I'm Angel with The Modern Man. So I'm a chemist, and I'm specifically focused on men's care and aesthetics. Getting into the report, it's important to know there's really 4 big hallmarks of facial attractiveness, and this is across different types of backgrounds, ethnicities, and what have you. But number 1 is going to be facial averageness, and so what that means is not so much that you're average looking, but if you take a look at every feature, your nose, your ears, your eyes, do those fall within the average range of what most humans have? And the more features that you have that fall in that range, the more attractive that you're likely to be. There are outliers who might have that certain type of model-esque look because something is a little bit out of that range, but for the most part, attractiveness is based on that facial averageness. The next one is sexual dimorphism. So this is what makes you look distinct from being a woman, basically. So a woman isn't gonna have facial hair. A woman is less likely to have a very strong and prominent jawline. Height is another one. So those types of things. Youthfulness. So usually if you are younger, you look better. So even though guys, we tend to get away with a lot because looking older makes people associate us with more financial income, more stability, and those pieces. Generally speaking, how youthful you are plays a big piece into your attractiveness. And then the other one is facial symmetry. So not just left to right, but if you split your face into thirds, into fifths, is it more or less even and symmetrical? All right, whopping 24-page report. I will have this available in the description if you want to take a look at it so you can see what types of things are on the report and what you could expect if it was something that you were interested in doing. I did what was called the full comprehensive report. It was about $300, did that through their website. They do have lesser versions that you could get that aren't necessarily as detailed but do have a lot of good information. But this is going to be really important here. So it looks just like Commander Picard. So this is Star Trek here, but these terms, there's going to be a lot of them, and you can go to the appendix at the end, and you're going to see, you know, gonian, submental, menton, stomian, subnasal, pronasal, and when you read these terms, they are really confusing as to what they are, so this helps you understand by referencing this diagram. So you might have to look at certain things there as you read them later on in the report. But going into the report, the first part of this is taking a look at some angles. So all these angles that you would never think of when looking at your face, and tells you what each of them are. So this is again available in the appendix. I don't love the side profile from me, but the first piece they go into is, and I guess I got classified as a Caucasian. I saw Asian, African, tells them in the appendix, but I guess Latinos get put as that. So I don't know if it would be different for me, but first they take a look at facial averages, and this is this is funny because they do a face morph of what you would look like if you had more of these average characteristics and changing some of the pieces that you have. And man, like that, my chin from the side angle, it definitely looks like Hercules. Like, looks a little bit like Hercules. I can't believe that's what my chin looks like. But here they have adjusted with some new averages, and so most notably, they changed some of the depression in my eye. So I have a little bit of this part of my face is not as developed as what it would be for the optimal level of attractiveness, and so as a result I generally will have more of like sunken in eye. So what they've done here is they've got rid of some darkness, they added a little bit more support for the eye, they took my chin and shaved it down a little bit, and they made this bottom lip a little bit fuller, they took the nose, they straightened it out, and they changed the angle of the tip. And so they did this to line it up with the averages that was on the chart on this other page here. Now what's interesting to me, so if you take a look at this, you cover parts of it, you can see individually these features have gotten more attractive. However, because this is something that is generated in a computer, what I would say is there's less facial harmony. So, and you could tell me, I'd be curious what you think, so definitely in the comments tell me what you think about something like this. But I think, I don't know, I want to say that the original looks better, but you know, definitely that's a nicer nose. I think it looks a little big because what they've done with the chin, but maybe because I'm used to what I look like, it just looks kind of weird to me. But again, would love to hear what you think about it. But I just think this looks kind of funny. So, you know, I think what it is that I think overall, I feel like I look more masculine in this photo because of the jawline. Like this area looks a little bit shorter because they've shaved off the chin. So if I had to guess, that's what it would be. So the next piece is facial proportions. So if we look at this, they break down the face, measure in millimeters, the distance between the face, and there's different ratios, and there's different studies that are really interesting that talk about certain ratios make you appear as more aggressive than others. So I am deemed as a softer, less dominant, less aggressive face upon first impression because of the ratio of my lower face to my upper face. And then for the height to width ratio, because my face is a little bit longer, I have what's called hyperleptoprosopic, said that wrong, prosopic face as opposed to a mesoprosopic face, which is more preferred for men and deemed the most attractive. However, overall, these results show that the subject has a proportioned face with a forehead that harmonizes well with the midface and a broad, highly masculine jaw. Let's go. Getting further into the facial proportions, and this is what's interesting to me, is if you take it into fifths, going that way, and this is apparently how people draw faces, they use those types of proportions because these should be roughly even across the fifths. I'm more or less even. I've got a millimeter or so that's difference, and so it's not really significant, which is what they kind of conclude. However, we have the first piece of my face that needs correction. They're talking about my nose is basically not aligned with the inner corners of my eyes. It's a little bit wider, and so cosmetic surgical width correction will therefore be recommended, as the nasal ala sags slightly below the right, and I also have premature subtle nasolabial, prominent nasal juggle, and tear troughs were apparent. So the next one is dividing the face into facial thirds. So boom, lower half, mid, and then the top. So for mine, they were proportionate. My top was a little bit shorter than the rest of them. More or less, it says the subject is blessed to have near symmetrical vertical proportions, with the upper third being the only exception. And what was interesting is they put a study in here, and I love all these little studies that they put throughout here that are references for what is ideal. And so this study found that perceptions of attractiveness were more sensitive to the height of the midface, and that women prefer men with shorter mid-faces as it's correlated with higher testosterone levels and fighting ability. So mine were even, my mid-face isn't on the shorter side, but yo, you don't want to try me, son. The next piece is looking at facial symmetry. So they basically take the left, flip it to the other side, take the right, flip it to the other side, and compare. And so for me, I thought these looked distinctly different. However, they concluded that most of the difference here are minor and not noticeable from the original front profile picture, but the left, I have more of a tall, long face. On the right, I have more of a shorter face. But they look at everything from the nose to the eyes, the eyebrows, like what's lining up, and they talk about it on the report. All right, so next is the eye area, and this is where they start actually getting into a lot of corrections for me because, and I knew this going in, like when I was a kid, growing up, even until I was like probably 26, I was really self-conscious about my eye area, really until I got into taking care of my skin. And so I've always known that objectively it is a weaker part of my face. It's not something that I would like stay up like crying about at night once I like developed into a man or anything, but I objectively could look at it and say, okay, this could be improved. So they start off with the eyebrows, and this is really interesting information. I'm not going to go into all of it, but there are specific places that your eyebrows should line up, and you can read it in the text here. But the arch should actually be in a specific location, generally right here. Mine is a little bit past it, but this is what makes for a more attractive eyebrow. Now, you could always get that adjusted, but I don't know, I personally think that getting your eyebrows done and like having the arch change is a lot of work, but to each their own. Now, when it comes to the eyes, what makes a very attractive eye is a lot of times the canthal tilt of the eye. So that is if you look at the inner part of the eye and the outside of the eye, if that is tilted up or if it's tilted down. So if it's tilted up, you're more likely to have what's called like hunter eyes, and lower is thought of as prey. And so for women, what they say is that 7 degrees is generally considered like very attractive if you have that angle. For men, it is a little bit less. So I landed about 4 degrees positive. 4 degrees positive is about that point where they say is the desired value for guys. However, when we point into this, it's not like a, you know, wow, I'm so perfectly formed. Like, a lot of issues coming here. Talks about here that I have overall, despite having positive canthal tilt, I have significant under eye contour depression in both eyes, thus making the face appear sad, tired, and exhausted. And that's definitely how I felt in high school. And everyone would always say that, are you like sleepy? Are you tired? Are you high? And most of the time I was probably sleepy and tired, but not the third part. But eyelid exposure, so having how much of the lid is showing is a big piece. So if you've ever seen, like, again, what's called hunter eyes, it kind of looks like that, sort of. It looks weird when I'm doing it because I don't really have the structure for it, but when you can't really fully see the eyelid, I believe Tom Cruise has it, is considered very, very attractive. But basically talks here about how I should get eyelid surgery on the top and the bottom. I ended up actually doing that, so I'll have another video about that later, but on the top and the bottom because of excess skin. And so I have, as a result of the way that my eye is set up, and they conclude all of this, is that the under eye area, and again, I had this done, so it's not what it was before, but the eye area had like a very distinct line right here for visible tear troughs. The skin would get dark right in this area. I still have like Denny Morgan lines, which are these little lines right under the eye, and you get those from usually getting like dermatitis as a kid, and it just causes excess skin on the lid, and then it just is always there. And then they also talked about the excess skin on the upper eyelid, which led to my eyelids being slightly low, like a millimeter or two, but that as a result made me have kind of like a little bit more of a sleepy look. Getting into the mid-face, it is insane to me how much studies go into this to find out what is considered like the most attractive and universally appealing, because here they have what's called this E-line, and what's considered ideal is you want to have about 6 millimeters from the lip if you're drawing a line from the nose to the chin. And so they said that mine is about right. It's in the 4 to 6 millimeters is what you want. And then the lower lip gap, they want 2 to 4. And so right here, that would be ideal. And it sounds crazy when you hear these things like 2 to 4 millimeters, this and that, like someone's being nitpicky. But these aren't things that someone looks and say, oh, their lips, 2 millimeters too short right there. Not for me. These are all things that we interpret subconsciously, and as soon as we see someone, we go, wow, they're attractive. Or like even like regardless of if you're straight, if you're gay, like you see someone from either gender, you can be like, wow, that's an attractive person. It's really easy to see. You just kind of know, and that's what these little pieces contribute to. So here at the cheekbones part, what they actually conclude is that the current beauty standards prefer the more dimorphic faces with high, angular, laterally flared cheekbones. My cheekbones are not laterally flared enough, and so they're saying, you know, submalar dermal fillers and fat grafts could potentially be a solution to correct any asymmetry and also make things appear more of that like laterally flared type of cheekbones. Lip-wise, pretty much falling in the averages here, regularly shaped. The lower lip is slightly retruded, which in that face morph from earlier, you saw them pull that out a little bit. So now we're getting into the dental part of the house, and so if you want to make me smile, then a like, a comment would be great. I love to have any kind of a dialogue. If you want to shoot me any DM on Insta, I'm more than happy to help walk you through any sort of a routine and help you with any problems that you might have in terms of appearance, in terms of skincare, hair care, and what have you. So absolutely love doing that and helping fellas out, but right back into it. I think the big pieces with the teeth is basically the amount of your teeth that show. And so it's considered like really good. 10 is considered good, like a complete set of teeth when they show up when you smile. What is considered better is some people who will have even more, like 12. It tends to be very attractive. And then you ever see someone with like a really gummy smile? That is something that you don't want. So even like seeing the appearance of any of the gum tends to be less attractive. And so here they say that potentially it is a option. You want to consult with a professional, of course, but an option to reduce any of the gum showing. Mine is incredibly minor, so I don't even personally consider that any sort of a issue whatsoever. The final part, and every guy's favorite part, is the jawline. So many guys want to improve their jawline, make it better. So this talks about all of the angles that are best for the jawline. So for here, my angle is at about 119 degrees, the gonio angle. A masculine angle is found to be in the range of 100 to 120 degrees, and then anything more than that tends to be in the feminine range. And so that's what we're talking about, sexual dimorphism. Things like this is what contributes to that. Another piece with the jaw is how taut this part of the neck is. So some people will have it, you'll see it like really saggy. So the closer that this is to the neck, or the, I guess how taut the submental region is what they call it, the under chin area, is what is going to help make you more attractive. And then also the length of this area right here is also something that's important. So 50 to 75 millimeters is what's preferred. It looks like mine is, I think it's a 68. So these are some of the pieces that go into what makes an attractive jawline. And obviously, outside of this, like, you don't want to be fat and like have a jaw that just isn't prominent at all. That will affect how taut the skin is here as well. But overall, 7 aesthetic professionals, like a dentist, a surgeon, a doctor, an esthetician, and others, concluded that, I need Botox, I need dermal filler injections, maybe even a silicone implant along the cheek line, a blepharoplasty to fix the eyes, some sort of a rhinoplasty to adjust the nose. So I'm No, I'm just kidding. I don't take it that much to heart. Of these, for me, the ones that really stand out the most that I would see myself doing or have done as of recently would be anything around the eye area. I think that's a really easy fix for me. So when that comes to getting any kind of eyelid surgery, any kind of fat grafts, for other pieces, Botox on like the forehead, on the eyes would be great for keeping that good youthful type of appearance. And I have a solid skincare routine, mentions that on here, but just keeping it tight, staying in shape. Definitely not getting a silicone implant anytime soon. I mean, what even happens if you get like punched when you have a silicone implant? Is it just like chilling somewhere like across your face when that happens? I don't know. Overall, I mean, I loved this report. I thought it was really, really interesting. I personally get such a kick out of reading these things about what are the beauty standards, what is like psychologically, proven to be the best things to have, and what you could do to close that gap potentially without feeling like you're lacking, or at least I don't feel like I'm lacking whenever I'm reading about these things. It just, for some reason, is fun to me. But I love that they have all of the references, and there's tons of them that they're putting in the study, or in this report at the end of the study, so you can read any of these. Qoves also has a lot of good videos that covers pretty much all of these things. What I wish I would have seen in this report, and they say on the website that you could like request it or ask about it, I wish that they would have talked a little bit more about things like hair, or even, I don't know, maybe even facial hair. I don't know how that would work with this, but it would have been nice, especially as a guy, to have seen what they said about that, different types of recommended hairstyles and hair types or anything along those lines, but they don't cover any of that. It would have been cool to me for them to have done that. They do have a separate report about hair loss, and maybe that covers different types of hairstyles. I'm not sure. Again, what I liked about the report was that it was all these different areas of the face and these things that I've never thought of, and it was just interesting to me. I thought it was fun to read about, but overall, as a guy, I'd say don't think so much about all these things that you might need to get done, all these surgeries. Like, if you have something that is way outlying and it just like you are in that category that is really unfortunate and doesn't look good, like you could think about getting those things corrected. But I think for the vast majority of men, if we just exercise, we look after our health, we take care of our skin, we're sleeping well, we don't have horrible habits, that we can all look pretty good, I'd say. Like, it's pretty easy for most guys, I think, to look like, if we were to do a scale of 1 to 10, at least like a 6 or above. So just my opinion there. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Looking forward to putting out more interesting content for you. And again, hit me up if you have any questions about skincare, hair care, anything that you'd like personal help with. I'm more than happy to give you a little bit of time, no problem.